this morning. We're excited to stand here united in support of the Yes on One campaign in Portland. We believe that this is the next step to moving away from prohibition and toward a regulatory structure that protects our children, protects our families, and makes sure that we are allocating police resources in a more responsible manner. You've heard from me numerous times, so I don't necessarily want to take up much of the air mic, but we have a few people here who are going to speak. And first and foremost, I want to thank Alicia Zoidkis for allowing us to be here with East End Cupcakes today, because it's important to have small business voices at the table. So without further ado, I want to welcome our owner of one of the best cupcake restaurants in the city to the mics.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy that you guys came. We're happy to host you today. And, you know, for us, we see no reason to not support this. And, you know, as a small business, we're constantly looking for ways to bring in new revenue, and we feel like this is a really good opportunity for the state to bring in new revenue. And so we're happy to have you guys.
Great, thanks. Next, I'd like to introduce Ben Shipman, who is from District 119, I believe. Am I correct about that? Who is an independent lawmaker from here in Portland. Say a few words.
Great. Just like to make a brief statement. If we were to go in the direction of this initiative, not only would we save a lot of resources we're currently spending on law enforcement to enforce a law that is clearly not working very well, but it would also bring a much needed tax revenue that could help us restore significant cuts we've made to social services over the last couple of years here in the state. So I think from that perspective, this makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Matt Munnell, who is the lawmaker in the House representing largely the west end of Portland.
Hi, my name is Matt Munnell. I represent House District 118, which is the West End, St. John Valley, Libbytown, and part of Oakdale. And I agree with what's been said here. We've already seen voters legalize marijuana in Washington and Colorado last year. There's no question that this fight is coming to Maine. And what we need to decide now is how do we do this responsibly? And legalization, taxation, and regulation is how we do that responsibly. So that's why I support this.
So at this point, we're more than happy to answer questions. I think that's probably where most of the commentary is going to come from. I'm sure you guys have questions of us. You've asked them of everybody else, so feel free.
I have one, Diane, for you.
Yes.
Specifically, obviously, I know that you've worked on the state level to try to bring forward a piece of legislation like this. It has been killed in the past. One, I'm guessing you're planning to do this again, depending on the outcome of this vote here in Portland. And two, how would it work if the state still considers it to be illegal and the federal government still considers it to be illegal here? How would that weigh on, how would that release police resources if they're to uphold local, state, and federal laws?
That's a great question, and I think it really gets to the heart of why folks have brought this to the ballot. I think the ordinance here in Portland is largely focused on reprioritizing and sending a message to the city council and to law enforcement that there are more important issues for them to be working on. I myself would rather they focus on violent crime, on the robberies that we've been seeing increase in this city, and making sure that people are safe. That to me is the heart of this issue, making sure that law enforcement priorities are addressed. But let me speak specifically to the state reform. The bill, we have introduced the bill in the past, we'll continue to introduce the bill. I will say, it came 4 votes shy of a House vote. And that in of its own right is pretty transformative. That's the closest anyone has come in the country to passing a tax and regulate bill through the legislature. For the longest time, we've said that the people are way ahead of the politicians on this issue, and that last session bill demonstrates that the politicians are catching up. When 58% of the country, including 62% of independents, when all those people across the country support legalization and support a tax and regulate model, it's time to move forward. The question, as Representative Munnell pointed out, is how do we do that? And making sure that we work as politicians in a united fashion to represent the interests of the people and address this and get ahead of it is an important component to that. So if the referendum passes on Tuesday, which we all hope that it will, here at least, we will be moving forward, hopefully, with a bill next session. And if we're not able to do it next session, we're certainly going to do it in 2015. In 2016, there will be a referendum coming. And I want to, as a lawmaker, I feel it's important to get ahead of the issue, to do it right, and to have it done in an open and transparent process. So my hope is that we're going to do that.
Could you talk about the Portland initiative, what people will be voting on Tuesday?
Absolutely.
It seems like some of the stuff we've heard today is getting beyond that if it does become a state issue with regulation,
Yep.
bringing, some added revenue into the state. This won't do any of that, though. This will just allow people to have small amounts of it.
You're absolutely right. The Portland Initiative essentially decriminalizes the possession of up to 2.5 ounces for adults over the age of 21. That in of its own right is a big step. It's a big step both in terms of being able to make sure that people in the city don't feel overly burdened by law enforcement, that law enforcement is actually redirecting their resources elsewhere. And my hope is that the police force will, after the people decide this, back down on their idea that they're going to continue to enforce it. Because when the vote of the people happens, the police ought to be representing the folks that are actually in the city that they serve. The challenge, though, is making sure that we understand that this is also the first step in a long process that this state has been looking at for some time in legalizing it. When you look at the ballot referendum in 1999, that was passed overwhelmingly. In 2009, 59% of Mainers voted to support opening dispensaries. The support continues to grow, and I think it says a lot that the Gallup poll has jumped 10 percentage points in just 1 year on this issue. And there's no question that with the Department of Justice guidelines shifting this summer, that we have an opportunity to redefine what prohibition looks like, and I think it's time for a Maine approach.